Pierre, nice to see you again. Thank you for contributing to this podcast. I wanted to talk a little bit about AI. We have a podcast already done with Dean Czar, who is talking a lot about the strategic part of AI. I think you want to talk a bit more about the more practical side of AI and how it can support and how it can add value to a business. Before we go into that, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast. My name is Pierre Montersino. I'm an ex-CIO who's gone back into transformation. I do business and IT transformations and AI as well as one of those good things I've learned and done recently.
Excellent, excellent. So in terms of AI, maybe you can help us with a little bit, well, certainly a little bit of confusion that I've seen in the past, and that is, it's not just AI, is it? We've got AI, we've got Gen AI, we've got, could you explain a bit more about AI for me?
Sure. So there has been a lot of hype at the moment, or has been, and there's a little bit of hype at the moment. And I think if you look at the Gartner's hype curves, you'll see that we're actually getting over the talk about what's been going on, and there's a lot of organizations actually wanting to get down and do the implementations of AI for their advantage. Very, very quickly, there is a big difference between AI and generative AI. AI is a term which is coined a long time ago, back in 1960 by Alan Turing, but generative AI, which is something which has been around for the last 5 or 10 years, which has grown significantly and has helped organizations improve the way they do reporting. So Gen AI uses what's called an LLM, which is a large language model, and they come in various sizes, and I'll explain that to you a little bit later. And what it does is the large language model collates information, builds itself as a self-learning tool, that then it takes data from where it's been told to look at it and then give it back to, or plays it back to the person who's requested information in a format. Not always necessarily correct, but it is a format which is good and which is quite reliable.
So you're always going to need an element of human intervention just to make sure quality in the right format, bespoke to the business, adding value.
Correct. These large language models are good. Like I said, it's if you want to class the as like an engine, you have a Rolls Royce and you have a mini engine wouldn't drive a Rolls Royce and vice versa. So you need to make sure you have the right tool for the right place. And then you need somebody to validate and check to make sure that the information that they're getting out of it is correct. Gen AI does have a reputation of what's called hallucinations. And it's always good to make sure you can validate and check, everything you get.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, just to draw some distinction between Gen AI, which is hosted for the organization, ring-fenced from a security perspective, and then we've also got something like Chat GPT, which, to someone like me who doesn't understand it as in depth as you, that's the same thing, isn't it? But you're about to tell me it's not, I think.
It isn't. It is, but it isn't. What they do is they use very similar large language models to interrogate the systems. Where you have a big difference, ChatGPT will go out into the web and look at all the web and actually pull information in from wherever it can to actually assemble the data. What is specific to an organization is if they create an LLM for themselves, a large language model, they have to consider security implications to make sure that their information data is protected against exposing themselves onto the World Wide Web. So there have been incidents in the past where people in the insurance sector have actually put live data into ChatGPT to extract the data, not knowing that it's a breach of security and GDPR compliancy. So one of the considerations you do need to take on board is how is it going to be wrapped into my environment, into my organization, how secure is it going to be, and to make sure that nobody can actually send data out, which is confidential. And
I understand. So for a large language model, you buy a tool, and the tool is from a vendor. It's obviously bespoke to your organization, but more importantly, the security for that tool is locked down into your organization as any other app would be. So there's no fear of your data going out into the World Wide Web.
That is correct. So if you look at this large language model as you going out and buying a car, you will go out and look at an option of buying a car with say a 2-liter engine or a 1500cc engine or a 1-liter engine. And you choose which engine you want to do, and then you fit that into your frame. The large language model is something similar to that, where you actually buy something and then you actually put some coding around it to help you understand what it is you want to do and collate the data you want to put into the system so that you can get it out as reporting.
Yep, that makes sense. So if large language modeling has been around for the last sort of 5 to 10 years, but we're talking about it more and more sort of recently, then a lot of organizations are still not implementing LLM. They're a little bit standoffish in terms of, do we have to go all in? Can we dip our toe in the water? If you were going to recommend a task or a task for a functional area that might be able to get the best value out of LLM, so just dipping your toe in the water, what would you choose? What would you say would be a good place to start?
For me, the most obvious choice is to working with the CFO to understand what reporting, what highlights, what challenges they're having, looking at one of their most complex processes they have, and seeing how you can actually automate that with the team as well. So just to take a step back, there are several key challenges that the executives have around implementing Gen AI. And one of them at the top one, as we talked about before, is around data privacy. You have a bias and discrimination, some cultural resistance, ethical and regulatory requirements, because obviously as you do, for example, here reporting, you have to have governance and controls in place. It's your skills gap that you have in the area, costs and the return on your investment, because that's also can be quite costly. It's the governance and the supervision and the cultural awareness that you have into it as well. So as I said before, it's really ideal because there's a lot of reporting, a lot of management reports go out in your monthly business reviews, your quarterly business reviews, your board meetings. And that to me is a natural start of where you need to be going with a reporting side.
Okay, so if I was the board looking at how we're going to embrace AI, it's certainly not going away, and for sure the competitors are using it. So how do we embrace it? Then
Correct.
We pick something like reporting, from a financial perspective, because that's given us the right information across the organization, which is of particular use to the CFO, the CEO, and the investors. Okay.
Correct.
And is this something that you've done before?
It is indeed.
Okay,
yes.
Fantastic. And how do they measure value in terms of implementing something like this? Because you mentioned that the cost can be expensive, but of course that's all relative to the organization. But how do you demonstrate value by implementing something like this?
What Gen AI does is it takes away a lot of the menial and challenging tasks away from your users. So you can actually see very quickly that reports that you're taking weeks to generate and create are now taking hours rather than months or weeks, whatever it is. So you can actually see the tangible benefits coming into it. I will always say that you start slowly, cautiously, and you start with one complex business case, and we'll sit down with the team, the financial teams, to sit and find out which is the most challenging and most arduous task. And you'll then immediately see the tangible benefits coming through, and then you can build it against your business case. And then you go back and you start, as you're seeing the tangible benefits, you can do more and more reporting, and you can expand it to other areas as well. So that's you'll see very quickly how that'll become a business benefit.
Okay, fantastic. I think given that subject, it might be worthwhile you and I putting together an insight article on how Gen AI can have an impact in terms of financial reporting, and a bit of a how-to type list of this is how I would go about it, these are the questions to ask, and this is what you can expect as a result of it. Because for sure, in 5 years' time, every company is going to be using Gen AI. So it makes sense to get on board with it now.
Well, I'd love to write that article with you, Mark, so I'd look forward to that. What it also must insist on is that this is an approach which is just not driven from the top down, but it's also from the bottom up. The executives need, or the senior leadership team do need to make sure they can embrace and understand it as well, and I'll be happy to walk them through something like this. But equally, your team must be a part of it, and they need to be part of that journey. There is a huge shortage of skilled people in this area at the moment. And so if you can train your people up to use the tool effectively, that will be phenomenal. And you'll see so much tangible benefits coming through.
Fantastic. Pierre, thank you very much for your time, sir. This has been really informative for me and hopefully for our sort of CFO, CEO community as well. For everyone, look out for the Insight article. Pierre and I will put that together in the coming weeks. Thanks very much, Pierre. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.